Hey Jack, say something funny. Kia ora and welcome to another episode of Experience Bar, where we're turning video games into cocktails. My name is Jack and I'll be your bartender for this evening as I show you how to make a drink for even the fanciest of Inquisitors, the Golden Nug from Dragon Age Inquisition. Let's get started. The Golden Nug recipe comes from the Gilded Horn. It's on a recipe list that you can find. I believe it's introduced in one of the DLCs. It's rare for video games to tell you explicitly what's in a cocktail. This one is actually straight from the game, so it'll be nice to see if it's actually any good. To make it, you are going to need a mixing glass. No ice. We're actually going to be using this just to muddle a few ingredients together. First, raspberries. Fresh if you can. It's always best if they're fresh. We've actually had to use frozen ones because they are out of season in New Zealand at the moment. Next, you're going to get some, in the game it's royal elf root, but that isn't a real thing and it doesn't look like it represents any particular herb in the real world, so we're going with mint instead. We know that that's going to match up nicely with the other ingredients. So grab 3 to 4 leaves of that and just pop it in. Lastly, you're going to add about ½ an ounce of brandy. The recipe for the game says West Hill brandy, but I'm just using a standard brandy. I'm not sure what the equivalent would be. Probably a nice cognac would be a good choice. ½ an ounce of that, just pop it in. And now we are going to muddle it. I haven't got my usual muddler, so I've borrowed our director's enormous mallet of a rolling pin and just gently muddle these. Whenever you're muddling mint, you want to be relatively gentle with it, because if you muddle too hard, you release all of these bitter compounds from the chlorophyll. Right. From there, you've got this kind of nice mushy mess that you are going to strain into an appropriately fancy glass. Just strain it on in. Oh, actually, I'm going to use my tea strainer for this. So there's going to be extra bits of fruit. You may need to give it a little bit of a shake because the raspberries will have absorbed some of that brandy and you really want all of it in there because we're only using ½ an ounce. I believe the in-game recipe actually says a dash or a splash of brandy. It doesn't give a specific amount. ½ an ounce is probably a bit more than a dash or a splash, but any less you won't really taste it. Now, we go to the pomegranate juice. Now this is a splash or a dash again. We are actually using grenadine, which is a pomegranates with a bunch of extra sugar added to it, basically. If you can make it at home, feel free to do so. It's great, but the bottled stuff will do just fine. Just a little bit, because grenadine is very sweet and you do not want to add too much. Now, the last ingredient, the fizzing, sparkling, effervescent Cellini wine. But I'm going with a Prosecco for this because it's a nice, clean, sparkling wine. Because we've got a lot of flavors going on here, we want the main ingredient that's going to take up a lot of volume not to add an enormous amount to the flavor profile. We really just want it there to fizz things up a bit, make it a bit more interesting. We're just going to top it up. And it's going to have this lovely pinkish red color. So pretty. That's partly the raspberries, partly the grenadine, and it's not a cocktail without a garnish, so I'm just going to be right back with that. Usually garnishes, you use them to represent the flavor profile of what you've got, and we've got mint in here, so it's nice to have a bit of a minty bouquet. Pop that in there. Hope it stays. Right, cool. By the way, if you're doing this at home, the best thing to do is grab big leaves and just quietly just bend them a little bit and then bend them back up so the fold doesn't show. Just little trick there, and that way it won't float away in the drink or fall over. So that is the Golden Nug from Dragon Age Inquisition, a cocktail that's hopefully pretty nice, recreated directly from the game files with a little bit of creative interpretation around royal elf root. But these drinks don't happen without some serious support from the community, so here's to all of our patrons who help make these drinks happen, in particular Snarf215, our patron of this episode. Thanks very much, and cheers for the drink. Well, hell, that actually isn't too bad. Yeah, the thing is when you're recreating cocktails direct from the game, they're usually not great. You remember the concentrated distillate that we did from the Outer Worlds? That was okay, but that was based on a real life recipe that they then converted into sci-fi terms by using like concentrated alcohol to make it sci-fi. And that was okay, but most of the time when you're recreating drinks, they're not great. Like the Glyphid Slammer as well, that just equal parts sweet energy drink and beer, it's awful. This, however, this is a pretty good brunch cocktail. I won't lie to you. And in fact, this isn't the only one. On the same note that you get where the Golden Nug recipe is written, you have a heap of other cocktails from the Gilded Horn. But as a cocktail, I mean, this is pretty good. This was the first on the list of those. If you guys want to see more of them, let me know below. They were a possibility. They all seem pretty doable. But for now, that is the Golden Nug from the Gilded Horn in Dragon Age Inquisition. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys have enjoyed yourself as much as I have. It's nice to have a recipe direct from a game that I might actually recreate. We're creating new content every couple of weeks, and until then you can catch us on Reddit, on Discord, on our Twitter, our Facebook. I've got a TikTok as well, so with some unique recipes on there that we don't have on YouTube. I hope to see you on any of those platforms, but until then, cheers.